every one of your on your phone. And they're picking 30, 40 people in one shot. Now, if any of them call back and say, listen, what is this? Text them back saying, listen, working with this guy that's one very successful individual in the company, and he's going to give you a call. I mean, these kids are doing nothing but texting. They're not even talking to anybody.
Wow.
Peaking 60, 70 people, 5, 10 come back and say this, and then we're just duplicating that. That's what my son's doing. It's just, these people got 6, 7, 8 people underneath them in their first 2 weeks, and they've never been in this office. I've never met them.
They're getting a check. Hey, how come I got this check in the mail?
Yeah. So really, really cool. But I'm glad I covered that first because, and we could talk more about that. But when it was amazing. I did an advanced training, and I don't know why the show up was small today, but we had like 50, 60 people in an advanced training when I first did it. And you should have seen the professional network marketers in that room that were going, I have never, ever heard of that in my life. I'm going, are you serious?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Brighart did the same thing in the 80s when he was an Emerald, and he came back to be in business. And that's, I got the tape at home. I listened to it a lot, lots. I wore it out. It was an old Amway tape.
Yeah, one of the old Amway tapes that I heard of years ago was a guy who was talking about building his farm. I love using analogies. So you're building the farm, okay, so you already broke down the land, you got it cultivated, you got it all fertilized. Now guess what? Sunshine God provides, and you need to water it. So you need to drill a well. So you got to continue to drive deep until you find the source of water. How is that? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And I did that example on a Saturday training. There was a guy that we just brought in the company called Tim Amy. And Tim Amy's out of Denver, Colorado. And it was funny because I said, Tim, who invited you here? And he said, you did. And I said, really? I said, who above you? How did I get your number? How do I know you? And he goes, well, Alan. And I said, really? I said, did Alan get in the business? He goes, no. I said, do you know how I found Alan? And he goes, no. Well, how would he? And I said, well, Alan actually got referred to me by Barry. He goes, oh, I know who Barry is. I know who you're talking about. And I tracked where I went down 67 levels. And Tim is tearing this thing apart. But
67 levels of people that weren't in?
No, 67 levels deep, probably 9 that were in.
Wow. That is a cool story.
Yeah, who do you know?
So who's in charge of your destiny? It's not anybody in your crew.
What?
Who's in charge of your destiny? It's not anybody in your
crew.
You could drop ship into
anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, if I ever ran an ad in my life, and I have, is when I first opened up ACN. Turned into ACN. But when I first went to Detroit, I ran an ad in the Detroit Press. About 200 people. The ad said, unbelievable, under sales/management. It says unbelievable, and it says ex-auto mechanic, ex-27-year-old auto mechanic now makes 6 figures a year. Call. I probably fielded maybe 200, almost 200 calls, invited them down to an office setting. Probably scheduled 70. I think 11 showed. Out of the 11, there was one girl named Lynn Martinez. And I said to Lynn Martinez, she says, I don't have any money. I said, don't worry about money right now. Let me show you that this works. Who's the most motivated person you know? And she says, my boyfriend, Mike Kupas. And Mike Kupas came down, brought his twin brother, Tony. Rest is history.
So the owners of ACN.
Mm-hmm.
So they bought it out. So you were in before the owners.
Yeah.
So that's a neat story.
Yeah. So I recruited Tony and Mike and Greg and Robert into a company called NSA that then went to Equinox, then we started ACN.
So you're a part owner of ACN still?
No.
You never were a part owner, you never got the ownership side?
No, just sort of financed it behind the scenes, and when I left, sold my distributorships back to Tony and Mike. I was there for 8.5 years.